All of the player characters are taking part in the tourney somehow. Even Karak, the mage, is going to get in there with his bashing stick and go bashing. How's this one going to turn out? Are they going to end up dead? Let's find out. Start the qualifiers. Hit it. Right, well, welcome Laurie.
Hi guys.
Who's playing Gabe in our campaign.
Yep.
Replacement for Amelia currently is still training as a Templar.
Yeah, I'm playing both technically, but Gabe's my current.
Yeah, now, with the qualifiers, this video is completely just about the qualifying round, okay?
Yeah.
Each round is probably going to be its own video. Maybe. We'll see how it goes, okay? So, we're going to do this kind of match of the day style. We're going to talk about it a little bit, speculate, talk about the results, and look at the overall as your common sports pundits might.
Yeah. The thing about the qualifier rounds is that these don't include all the characters that are seeded into the automatic 64 round 1 fights.
That's right. Previous people who have either been champions of other tournaments or this tournament or have proven themselves in some way to the organisers, Rainer Arenthal and such, and the other people involved in the marketing, they have automatically been seeded in the last 64. So this is an undisclosed amount of battles to get that down to 64 to fill the rest of those places. Yeah. The invite also went out to players out there with your characters so that you could submit your characters, and the idea was going to be anyone that was going to take part in the Grand Tourney proper, the fighting arena one, would be automatically seeded as well, just as a sort of courtesy of saying, well, you know, your player characters, you've got heroic exploits from the past, your guests, so I do this for my guests, you know? So, a few of you have submitted characters, not very many actually, and most of you, to be honest, submitted things for the like the archery and the knife throwing and that sort of thing. That's already been covered in the last video, so if you've missed that and the Mages Meadow stuff and kind of what that was about and how that went, check out the previous vidcast. This one is just for the tournament.
There was one person who was like seeded but decided, no, I'm joining the qualifiers.
The Tevinter champion, the Black Bear.
Oh, brother.
He has come over to this one. Remember, the prize is Anvil Breaker.
Yes.
I don't know if there's other prizes as well.
There's probably obviously a lot of renown for winning a tournament in the first place. You know, your name will become famous. Type silliness.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you might earn a title that has like a buff effect as well. And
there's that.
This sort of thing. Social interactions.
Yeah.
Whatever. Well, anyway, yeah, he was automatically going to be seeded being a champion, but he refused and said, no, I will fight in the qualifiers. And they said, why do you possibly want to do that? And he said, because
I love a fight.
I like the sight of blood. And it's not being fought to first blood either. It's being fought to distress.
Yeah.
Now, distress is 1/3 of your health. Now, the way it works with this, before we start looking at the results and so forth, we'll tell you about mechanics a little bit of this. We've decided that distress, and this is the Navaran rules, of course, which has caused a hell of a lot of controversy, especially with our warriors, especially with the Avars, who really hate this. They'd rather have a good fight all the way to the death, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
But this idea of distress,
if you want that.
you know, the 1/3 of your health, made worse by the fact that you can't bring bows in.
And you have to wear a set piece of armour.
Yeah, you have to...
Well, a maximum level of what armour you can wear.
Yes, you have to be in leather.
Light leather.
Indeed, light leather.
And that's the qualifying round, which is a maximum of 3 armour points. Now, to rogues, this is nothing, because that's what they're normally used to wearing, either that or heavy.
Definitely favours the rogues, doesn't it?
In the qualifiers, yeah.
The warriors, they are going to be sort of
higher health but lower armor.
The higher health benefits them for what a third is and such. However, it will benefit them more later when the other rules come in. But anyway,
yes.
Distress is a third of the health, rounded up to the advantage of the player, of course. And once you've lost a third of your health, then we're using a rule called True Grit, which you can kick in. So optionally, you can choose to have a willpower self-discipline test by the target number over
how many
points over the third so far you've lost.
So if you lose exactly a third, it's a 0 test.
Yeah, exactly. So
which means it's more or less an automatic pass, really. For some characters, they can go into this test quite a lot until they get like in the 20s, where they need to have like 5 in the stat, the focus, and have to roll a natural 18 on the dice to probably just even think about passing.
Well, of course. It gets that way once the damage starts accumulating. So there is a real tactic to the qualifying rounds. Get in there, burst damage as fast as you can, eliminate. But the other element is that you're not on your own with just an opponent.
There's 4 characters in the ring at any time.
Per bout.
Yeah.
Okay, and only one can go through with those 4. Also, the items you can take out as weaponry are anything you can hold in your hands.
Which means you're only allowed 1 weapon, or 2 weapons, or 1 weapon and a shield. If you're, depending on how you fight. You can't take throwing weapons, you can't take ammunition for a bow or crossbow.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And that rule applies quite a lot early on.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're limited in that sense. And
which, again, also favours the warriors because they can wield the heavier weapons that deal out 100...
3d6 plus.
Yeah. A heavier damage quicker.
You might be looking at like 3d6 plus 7 and sort of results like that, ridiculous results.
Yeah.
That is a lot. Rogues have to rely on a completely different kind of fighting, and mages don't even get me started, because mages, if they take part, aren't allowed to use magic. No magic at all is being allowed in this tournament. It's instant disqualification.
If it gets caught casting it.
If you carry on fighting when the horn is blown to knock someone out, or you've been knocked out or something, you will be thrown out of it, or potentially
given to the crowd, as it was.
Yes, which could well be a death sentence in of itself.
Yep.
Now, Navarra as a tourney does things its own way, and obviously all the controversy this is caused by the only fighting to distress, I've still got more in me, having a go at the judges and things like that.
Yeah.
You have to remember that it's also wherever players or NPCs or anything would have an issue with that mechanic. It isn't necessarily something they have to even bring up to the GM or say, that session didn't work for me because whatever. They should take it and encompass it as part of their role play and say, oh, damn, those Navarra and their rules, the way they do it, because not every tournament would be like this, you see.
Exactly. I mean, the Tevinter ones, where the Black Bears fought, they're all to, the death, probably.
The Tevinter ones are considered...
or at least the most bloody.
The idea of the distress was, and the idea of qualifiers, is because with Tevinter, they don't mind unbalanced fights.
No.
They'll say,
Navarra, they want to weed out the weaker fighters, or the crazy people, or the idiots, and take only the best they can.
This is a contest of arms, whereas Tevinter is an entertainment show.
Heck, in Tevinter, you're supposed to be like, oh yes, we're sending in blood mages to fight the warriors, and they're bloody spellcasting on top.
Or you might see animals. You might see lions in there up against.
It'd be more like a proper Roman gladiatorial arena, wouldn't it?
It would be. Whereas this is specifically a contest of arms. The Navarrans are taking this seriously.
Very much so.
About the skill of
fighters.
Yes. Down to it, and they want a very specific set of rules, so therefore they don't want a bloodfest.
No.
However, if it can get that way later, but a lot of the people will pick up injuries and they'll not be able to take part properly later because 64 rounds have to become 32, have to become 16, have to become 8,
then 4, then the final,
and then of course, yes,
of course there's a certain ruling that. Well, in later rounds anyway, where the characters can decide amongst them, the 2 fighters can say, okay, first blood, keep the normal rules or fight to some other level of
yes, I mean,
thing, or they could fight to the yield
It's always possible that if they pre-arrange something between them, that one could then submit.
Mm-hmm.
The judges won't be holding that to account necessarily. The player would have to be on his honour and decide to submit because he indeed has met the criteria for the agreed upon.
In fact, there's some things where some people might decide to the death in general.
Exactly. But the judges wouldn't allow that necessarily, normally, in the earlier rounds. Unless it was an unfortunate quick attack that they couldn't do anything about.
Yes.
Before they could blow the horn. So, I think we've pretty much covered all the bases on how the qualifiers work.
Yep.
And it really is a case of, this isn't even round one. These are the qualifiers. Okay? Everyone can enter into it for free. It doesn't cost to enter this one.
Basically, this is like, okay, all of you, we've got so many people here, we need to narrow you down. So let's get this done with. We're putting you all in these fights. We want to see the best get through.
We had Amelia going into this.
Yep.
Alistair follows around like a lost puppy.
We got Gabe.
Yeah.
We had Tanadil, and we have Karak.
Karak's even going in.
Heck, we even got Agnes going into this
Agnes going in. And a few other surprises, which we'll come to. And some of those surprises, of course, are seeded or in place through favours or maybe financial favours. Could even be part of it. Because money talks.
Hey, there's a lot of Kalsharok guys in here.
A lot of dwarfs, just generally.
Yes, I think there's more Kalsharok in the qualifiers than there are Orzammar.
Because
Orzammar have actually been invited.
Because, or
something like that.
Yeah. Kalsharok turn up late in the qualifiers and demand to be let in. And the way we've done it is we've thrown in the Kalsharok leader as well of the delegation.
Yep.
That Lord, Lord Laelf, and the two Orzammar delegates as well as say the Legion of Dead Dwarf, Psychotic Relevi the Root.
And there's also a bunch of them.
And a whole bunch of others. Last year's winner. We won't actually spoil all that for you because round one will have all the surprises in.
All the best fighters that make it through the qualifiers.
And of course, our player characters have to go through the qualifiers. So they have to go through the hard way.
Yes, and Karak's here. So is he going to make it? You're about to find out.
Let's take a look at these results. So, again, a load of dwarfs. Orzammar, normally the dwarfs don't take part in human provings like this.
No, but because of the hammer itself, with the anvil breaker, it's the smith's hammer.
It is the weaponsmith's...
I'm about to say Primarch because I'm thinking too much of 40k. Paragon, that's the word.
That's it.
It begins with a P, I'm just getting the words mixed up.
Yep. It's all the same sort of thing, isn't it?
Realistically, yeah, kind of.
Sort of. But
it's their gods, if you will, living ancestors.
Yeah.
You think me being a dwarf player, I should get that in Warhammer Fantasy. Well, at least I understand it more than most.
By Grimnir's beard.
So,
loads and loads of dwarves, and they really were the feature of this, weren't they?
It's like everyone had a fight with a dwarf at least in their qualifier.
They swarmed to the place. And now it is not just the Orzammar dwarves and the Kalsharok dwarves.
Oh, no.
Kalsharok coming along saying, Orzammar don't deserve that hammer. We deserve that hammer.
But there's a bunch of topsider dwarves coming along.
They've come along, industrious as they are, saying, we can get favour back with the city
If we get the hammer, they will be allowed back in to trade properly. For the hammer. But there's one other little surprise.
It's pretty much name your price.
Yep, there's just one other little surprise on the dwarven front. The Carter.
Yeah. They want access to the hammer, so they are putting forward champions as well.
Yeah.
I mean, this thing has just gone completely mad. Right. Now, I will say that the tournament doesn't give you very good guidelines for lots of opponents to be able to use in this. You really have to get creative, like I've done, to really try and make the tournament interesting. Yeah. Consult, who can I bring in? There's a number of past faces that you've met before. It's a great opportunity to introduce a lot of them.
Yep.
And some other special cameo appearances like Alistair turning up as a trainee Templar along with Amelia. We've explained why they're there in the last video. So let's look at some of these. And again, the rest of the competitors, you'll see them taking part in round 1 in the next video.
Yeah.
But let's look at these qualifiers. So, lots of Orzammar Dwarves. Orzammar Dwarves going through, Orzammar Dwarves going out.
Yeah.
More going through, more going out. I mean...
Dwarves... both the Kalshok and the Orzammar Dwarves were going into these rounds carrying, well, ceremonial, if you will, two-handed hammers in respect to what the prize was.
Yeah, yeah.
So they were pulling out 3d6 damage, plus their strength straight from the off.
Yeah.
Which is pretty big. If you consider that it's only to like the first third of your health, and some characters are going to maybe, if on a very high roll, going to be getting really near to their distress point from one hit.
Yeah.
Especially the rogues with slightly lower health than the warriors.
Now, of course, later on when it's fought to Anguish, which will be 2/3 of the health, that will favour the warriors even more.
Because not only have they got the percentage, but at that point they're also allowed to wear heavier pieces of armour.
Yeah, yeah. So,
which puts it in less in favour of the rogues, which means the rogues need to be using dirty fighting here to be getting automatic backstabs.
That will be interesting. So, yes, a number of dwarves going this way and that way. We've had professional pit fighters, amateur pit fighters.
Mercenaries.
All taking each other on. A strange hag in ripped, haggard clothing who fights with claws, seemingly. Overly elongated claws.
She's an old hag with clawed nails.
She's even gone into the last 64.
A little girl went through. With just a doll.
Yeah.
That was creepy.
She just was where the fighting wasn't.
Yeah.
That is kind of weird. You know, there's one of the big drug lord ambassadors from Freeport. Really big guy, muscly, sort of kingpin type monster. He's managed to make it into the last 64. There's Avars being falling down out of this.
Chastened as well, from what I remember.
Yeah, some chastened going out, a few. Some going through, not many. We've even had a convict.
Yep.
Who's not fighting for his freedom. It's not one of those situations. He's still a convict.
Yeah.
Fighting in this.
An alchemist.
An alchemist has made it through into the last 64. Potentially using what? Grenade bottles, or grenades, maybe coating his weapon, doing all sorts of crazy things.
He probably wouldn't be allowed to throw grenades in the first round because it's a ranged attack.
Yeah.
But he probably would have weapon coatings.
Yes, he's probably up to something
poison.
like that. Wow. Probably taking a load of potions as well, souping himself up. On all sorts of stuff that you guys couldn't even dream of getting your hands on.
Yep, most likely. I mean, it's probably like a Pathfinder or /D&D alchemist, where they have their mutagens as well, where they can boost their physical stats for a negative against their mental stats.
This has seen a mutant slave go through into the last 64. And then we came to the first of our player battles.
Yep.
Now this was Agnes.
Yeah.
Or Aberdeen Redhold. A pit fighter. A monk. That's right, a proper robes and puncher monk. Who are. And a Carter champion.
Yeah.
There it is. Now, the monk stood his ground. Agnes watched. The other two went for each other. As the Carter champion pretty much finished off the pit fighter, the monk came in, pulled his head back, smacked him to the throat, and then he went out, and then turned on Agnes in a prepared stance. Agnes charged in, all axes are ready. She's a warrior, remember?
And a berserker.
A berserker, so dual wielding. And, went in there pretty hard, was chopping up the monk, but the monk wasn't seeming to show damage or bleed. The monk was just sending back some beautiful, palm fist strikes and specific targeted attacks to the body, doing all sorts of devastating damage, but it didn't show itself very physically. Most of it was all internal. So Agnes, and being a very, very high willpower, being a berserker, the combination of those two things was able to hide it from the judges.
Yep.
And had gone quite over the health thing before the monk, but was hanging in there by showing
having a higher willpower,
grit.
Probably having the self-discipline focus. If not, if she was berserk, she'd have a bonus to that, even top.
Now, this monk is a very scary proposition, and he's actually fighting. He's some sort of overseas combatant, and he's fighting with the Josh Jarman Dragon Hack specifications for origin pre-background things there. So literally, the monk. We're talking about the acrobatic monk, of course, the one that's sort of based on a rogue kind of, and they can backstab and stuff like that as well, but with fists. It's interesting. Unarmed combat master and so forth.
Yeah.
Multiple attacks or flurry.
Fire blows.
Agnes took it anyway, just from the amount of sheer hits she was seeming to put on the monk.
Yeah.
Irregardless of how much his damage was,
How exhausted he appeared to be looking.
He didn't look exhausted at all.
Right.
But his robes were cut into in multiple places. All the judges kept seeing was Agnes keep hacking at him from the
So it's like, okay, he's obviously been hit by too much damage. Okay, call it on him.
It was like, look, he's going to get slaughtered out there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, from the way it was looking, he probably could have gone through that.
Mm.
If it was allowed to continue.
Well, yeah, so it being the VAR rules like this possibly favoured Agnes here in this qualifier. She's in the last 64. Now, she really needs a good windfall, doesn't she? She needs a turn of events. But if she can win this tournament, she's very poor. She doesn't have much to her name. If she could somehow take this hammer, she'd become a noble.
In Avarian terminology.
And
which means she'd be able to marry Carrack.
Potentially.
Tannendale, sorry.
Yes.
Carrack's already married to one.
Yes. She'd then be allowed to, and then possibly Tannedale's own people wouldn't be able to say something so much about it. However, so hepped up on the idea of winning is she, that she may not yield under any circumstances, especially if she goes berserk. With the activation berserker action, it may well be that she will fight to the death at this tournament.
Yeah.
Which would mean if
Which
that
means
happens,
in later rounds she might just decide to call every round match to the death.
And it also means that, she might not need to even call it to that. She might just personally decide internally, I'm not giving up, no matter what.
Which gives the possibility of being disqualified or given to the crowd.
Yes, which is death in another way.
Yeah.
She's so berserk will she go, potentially, that if this happens, Pete could be on the verge of losing
the fourth character. But then again, we know what Pete's like when it comes to tournaments. He's fucking crazy.
He does pull things, doesn't he? Yeah.
I remember what he was like with the Warfrip one, and that was even a minor tournament compared to the idea we were coming up with for a latter point.
Anyway, exciting stuff. We had our dwarf that we rolled live with you guys, the community player, Underwood. You remember him? The dwarf warrior. Yes. He's through into the last 64. He won his fight. Oh, we just had to stick him in this.
Of course we did.
It's funny.
Yeah.
We've had Kunari here taking part and going out. We've had knights going out. Orzammar dwarfs going through in that fight. Now, the Tethys clan appeared. I think they're called Tethys. Clan Tethys?
Tethys.
Whichever. It's something close to that, isn't it? This is
Varric, basically,
Varric's
guys.
family are actually heading up the Cumberland side of the wagering, the gambling. They're running the gambling.
This event, yes. They even have a champion meant to be fighting in this.
Yes, and the problem is that contractually, Varric is this champion's second signature.
Yeah.
He's the guarantor. Now, this champion has come down with some sort of pox or something ye old medieval has happened.
Something that has stopped him from competing, basically.
And contractually, Varric
is his second.
now has to
fight for him.
Now has to fight, and he doesn't want to fight. He's here to just run the gambling.
And if you remember, Varric's a rogue who specialises with a particular crossbow called Bianca, a self-reloading, repeating crossbow.
Now the problem is, no crossbows are allowed in the qualifying round, and he has to fight by contract.
Yeah.
Oh dear. Of course, this is before a lot of the mess that happened and the stuff with his brother.
In Kirkwall.
All that.
This is all before the Kirkwall stuff.
This is probably about 2.5 years before the events of Dragon Age even begin.
Yep.
So, no blight, nothing yet. Well, Varric took part here. He was up against a Qunari. Another convict, in fact. Another prisoner who's deemed quite strong from the same penitentiary. And a Qunari champion, no less. The Qunari have really, Par-Volon has had quite a presence down here at the moment, and not just to take part in this contest. I mean, they have been officially invited, because those crafty Pentaghasts want to get a tactical heads up of what
Tevinter are up to.
Yeah, it's that again.
Pentaghasts, for those of you who don't know, are the big part of the nobility in Navarra.
They're the ruling bloodline. Yeah, so famed are they for their dragon slaying that they've got the bones to prove it, unlike Tanador, who claims that he almost killed a dragon.
Speaking of which, before Tanador even went in to the qualifiers, he went and had his greatsword magically enchanted. So it gets a +1 to damage, a +1 to attack rolls. But he wanted to have some etching, an engraving placed upon it. And guess what he decided to call it? Dragon's Bane. Or something to that effect.
Dragon's Bane. I almost killed a dragon once.
Yeah.
Almost two, actually.
Yeah. Let's just put it this way. If he goes up to him saying that it's too much in Navarra, he's going to get some serious shit from the Pentaghasts. They're like, okay, where's the proof that you killed this dragon? Well, actually, I nearly killed it. Oh, I see.
He definitely has picked the wrong place, hasn't he, to
start bragging about shit like that? Yes.
Well, anyway, we came in then with our next player fight. And this was Gabe.
Yep.
So, we've got Gabe in there with an Orzammar dwarf.
Another dwarf.
A Kalsharok dwarf.
Two dwarfs.
Who oppose each other greatly.
Yep.
And a Dalish lady, Sylvanus Stillfoot.
Yes.
Now,
2 rogues and 2 warriors.
Now, this lady, she played up her womanly charms to put Gabe at a bit of a loss.
Yeah.
Because as the 2 dwarfs beat each other up, and then Gabe jumped in to do everything, and she just kept her defensive stancing and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was funny because then Gabe faced her. She did manage to lock Gabe down
for like maybe a couple of rounds
with a dirty fighting, and the way it was expressed was she came up, whispered something in his ear, and blew into his ear.
Yeah.
Sensually.
Yep.
For Gabe, that's how you lock him down. That works.
Yeah, for him it does.
So that was how he was locked down.
Gabe also did dirty fighting on the dwarf. If the dwarf was wearing a helmet, Gabe probably would have done some silly Jericho-style flips, bit on the dwarf's head, flipped over the dwarf's head, and twisted his helmet around so he's got the the back of the helmet about the face, covering his eyes up.
Yeah. Maybe. Yeah. Well,
if they were wearing helmets.
Yeah.
Silly stuff.
Those industrious dwarfs, they need to start putting eye holes in the back just in case. Yeah. Well, if anyone could do it, they would.
Yeah, they would.
Anyway, she said, well, look, are you going to come at me? And Gabe said, no, I don't want to attack a woman at all.
Besides, Gabe had taken quite a bit of damage at this point as well. He got hit in the gut with the butt of a hammer.
Yeah.
So it pushed him quite low.
So it came to the point where she said, well, all you have to do is yield to me then. And then he said, well, that's what I'll do then. So he just gave up because the pretty lady asked him to.
She said, please.
Oh.
Although, Gabe did get lucky afterwards.
Yes. So she's through to the last 64. More on that next video.
Yep.
So. Oh boy. An elven slave managed to fight his way through, with a real chip on his shoulder as he is. Just other competitors. Just fighting it out. Now, we've had someone all in robes, all covered up and hoods and cloak and the mysterious stranger. KOTOR reference, anyone?
I was going to say, is this Revan?
Unknown who it is, but he's managed to go through and took out a dual sword wielding opponent, an Orzammar dwarf and a Carter dwarf.
Dual swords? Short or long? Or one of each?
It could have been one of each. I don't remember. So yeah. Just trying to look at the highlights here. We had the Tanador fight.
Oh yeah.
As the next player fight. And a whole bunch of ones that you wouldn't be interested in because you don't really know who the people are. Just suffice to say, there's people going through, there's people going out, there's loads of fights.
Tanador's fight?
Tanador's fight.
He was up against
Orzammar dwarf, Carter dwarf, and a pit fighter.
Yep.
So, again, what do you do? There's a certain politics in a 4-player battle, and you're not allowed to make allegiances that are spotted by the judges.
Mm-hmm.
So, because they will, disqualify you.
Yep.
So what do you do in a 4-way battle, really? I mean, you pick someone and fight them, and the other person picks someone and fight them, or sometimes you see ganging up. And it was a pretty bloody fight all over the place, wasn't it?
Everybody ganged up.
Everyone came in, didn't they? And went to the pit fighter and the Carter dwarf and...
Everyone hit the Carter dwarf. The Carter dwarf went down. The pit fighter then went out. It came down to Tandil and the Orzammar dwarf.
It was a big sort of ruckus in the middle, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Quick, get him down. No, I'm going to get you. No, you. And it came down to it. And Tanador and the dwarf both went into their true grit willpower, self-discipline thing. Now, dwarfs have a lot of willpower, being what they are.
Yep.
They're very disciplined. And Tanador... The original idea was for him to try and build himself
to be a berserker,
down that route.
To be the berserker class.
Now, he didn't... when he was levelling towards specialisation level, he didn't put...
any into willpower.
And because of this, he wasn't able to unlock the specialisation.
No. Plus, he's only at 1 willpower too.
And... don't think... At the time, he didn't have self-discipline. As a focus.
No, I don't think it did.
So, not really favouring him.
No.
If he'd have took a different fated course, and I do like the way that they say, to be this you have to open up this. It's like willpower and a warrior. Why? Because it stops min-maxers, guys.
Yeah.
You want to unlock these amazing powers. You don't want to have a load of topped up strength as well and unlocking them. You want the willpower because you're courageous, because you can do all these things. Because your spirit is so high.
In fact, to be a Templar, you need Strength 3, which is a warrior stat. However, you need Magic at 3 as well.
Yeah.
Which is the off-stat levels.
Which is completely understandable.
Because Templars do require Magic in order to use the
If you're going to nullify it, you have to understand it.
Mm-hmm.
If you're
in fact, the Journeyman ability is 1d6 plus your Magic on a successful hit off a mage's magic stat.
Exciting stuff.
That's how much mana points they lose.
Yes.
If the warrior hits them.
What a cool tanking class. I do think. Well. Yeah. An anti-magic.
And the champion is strength 3, communication 3. And that's a melee close range buffing class.
Yeah, which
would
make
debuffing
sense.
class.
Which would make sense. Inspiring, rallying those around.
Now that is how Crusaders, in real life world terms, which is basically the term of the Paladin, Warriors of the Faith, fought. They led by example, inspiring others to do better by fighting themselves.
Now, Tanadol, I think he got a bit unlucky.
Low dice roll.
Tanadol
the stats he built towards didn't favour him for this. In fact, even Craig said the same thing about the Mage's Meadow, with the whole fact of perception and the seeing focus.
But again, it's the way Cumberland do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he went out and, he still had a load of health left.
Yeah.
But that was a third of his health and over into the True Grit. The judges called him out, not me.
Yeah.
Right? It's all in place.
Yeah.
And him and a lot of others that have gone out unexpectedly like this.
Yeah.
They really aren't happy, are they?
No,
they
no.
really say, oh no, this stinks, this is bull. I can't believe it, I'm out.
I'm still able to, I can still fight.
So, great controversy there. For me, an interesting chance to let them be their characters and show that disgrace towards that, definitely.
Then there was a bunch of other minor NPC type characters that have been going in and out as well.
Well, as we've already been saying previously. Yeah. Another person that you would know that has gone through into the last 64 is Shadow.
Oh yeah, Shadow.
The Avar Lady.
The Avar Rogue from... Ooh, I forget the name of that quest. Too Many Bands, wasn't it?
Yep, a band too many.
That was it.
That was it. And she popped up as the opposing party, that had a go for the camp.
To be
and
the only
got
survivor.
captured and had some very bad things happen to her. Then you guys rescued her.
Yeah.
Well, she's made a good comeback, come to this tournament, and she's gone through into the last 64, so that was very interesting.
I mean, we've had Sir Bridget show up.
Yeah. Now, we've had Amelia. We all remember how powerful Amelia is as a fighter.
To top things off, since this is now for level 7s, Amelia's come in with the Master Weapon and Shield style, giving her a bonus to all shields wielded by 1 point of defense. So basically, Heavy Shield is now 4 defense points instead of 3.
Yeah. Well, even though her anti-magic Templari stuff isn't going to help much here.
Not here, no.
It doesn't really matter because she was always very good in the thick of combat.
Yep.
Swallowing up damage.
Oh, yeah.
And she could really dish it out even with her one-handed.
Yep. It helps the fact that she's going in with Amor Finn as well. Granted, that's basically just an extra 4 points of damage to the dice roll.
Yeah.
Which means her strength, her damage is 2d6 plus 7 now. Rather than 2d6 plus 3, which is her strength.
So thinking about it. Why didn't Tanadol take a potion of fortune and strength for his fight?
Fortune and skill?
It's fortune and skill. That could have tipped the balance.
I think he didn't even proc when in that fight to begin with. Because it becomes wasted either way. He would have made A gone through or B not procced.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we had Amelia there with an Orzammar dwarf, a Kalsharok dwarf. They're very, very careful that they don't allow allegiances in the 4.
Yeah.
The judges carefully select them so they're far apart.
If anybody has history with each other, if they're going to be in the sense of working together, they probably know about it.
And Mr. Butterfly.
Who the fuck is Mr. Butterfly, I hear you say?
A guy going along in a kind of skin-tight, leotard-like thing.
It's what's his name from Pineapple Dance Studios, isn't it?
With butterfly wings painted on his back. Dancing around the ring, entertaining the crowd, but of course they're only booing him and laughing. The dwarves went straight for him.
Amelia's just standing there like, okay.
The dwarfs mangled him. The horn went. The dwarfs went for each other.
Amelia came in.
Starts fighting, I think it's the Orzammar dwarf.
Well, she fought one of the dwarves.
She fought one of the Kalsharok dwarf or something. Or no, I think she fought the Orzammar dwarf. I don't remember.
They're dwarves. It doesn't really matter.
Fought one of them,
she fought a dwarf.
Took it down, and then took on the other one. She didn't even take a hit, did she?
No, she didn't. She deflected with the shield and parried with her sword.
And then took him out.
Yeah.
Pretty convincing.
They just couldn't hit 17 on the dice.
Well, it's quite a lot.
But the fact is, Gabe has 16. Tanadil has about...
Yeah, but
has 15.
You remember what it was like when you met those owls, and they were like defense 17, and you guys were saying, "Shit, how do we hit that?"
Well, that's also taken into account of range and everything else.
Yeah,
this is like close range combat. I mean, I would have thought these being dwarves, high strength, possibly got the focus and hammers or whatever as well. Mm-hmm. They're probably looking at maybe a 7+ max. It's almost not. That's not really an impossible number to roll against with 17 with a good attack roll bonus.
Even in leather, as she was,
she didn't get hit.
Her defense was still amazing. If she's not getting hit, it won't matter. And she's faster in the leather. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Especially dwarves who are slow moving in general.
Yeah.
Being stubby bodies.
Now, very much went in Amelia's favour. So she's in the last 64. I always knew she would be.
Yeah.
Then we had.
I'm just surprised she didn't take damage at all. That just makes it even more favourable for her for the next round, where she has not actually taken anything that could debilitate her.
Fighting for House Baranti. But even if she did, there are Baranti medics on hand who will help patch players up.
Yep.
Now, then we had a maniacal man who was actually quite suicidal in his way, so didn't mind what happened to him. He was in there up against the Black Bear.
Oh, brother. That's not going to be good. That type of fight.
Yeah. We don't know much about it. It's one of those sort of things that none of the player characters were around spectating that one at the time.
Yeah.
But all we know is that an elven slave was in there too and ended up with his neck broken. The maniac ended up with like a damaged vertebrae and slammed up against the wall.
Basically, the Black Bear, he's like Bane.
And
comic book Bane. You know, broke Batman's back.
And the first person to go out, upside down...
Then he literally got thrown out of the ring.
Was Alistair.
Ow!
Poor Alistair.
Yeah.
He's got a lot to learn. He's got a long way.
The thing is, Amelia's trying to teach him.
I wonder if it will succeed.
That's the fucked up thing here, isn't it? It's Amelia trying to teach Alistair how to fight. Instead of it being the more notable male warrior trying to teach the girl how to fight.
I know. But with Alistair, it would be something stupid, wouldn't it?
It's basically the opposite of the Mulan story for Disney there, isn't it?
Well, you remember even when he met Carrack and Tanador, and they're being insulting to him, and all he can turn around and say, "Your friend's nice."
Yeah.
Anyway, Chasen going through.
Oh dear.
A monk did finally manage to make his way through as well. Chirones. We had a eunuch.
A eunuch
go through. Taking out another big dumb guy and an anti-even wayfarer and pit fighter. And then we had, as the final battle of these ones, we had Carrack.
Versus.
Coming in with his staff.
And robes.
He was in there up against a dwarf, a pit fighter and a merc. Now, the thing with this was, he used his particular stealth tactics and abilities.
But not just that.
To hide.
But not just that. He went in casting beforehand.
Casted beforehand, yes, he buffed himself.
Heroic offense. And rock armor.
Yeah.
So he's going in with higher armor than the rest because his magic's 5. And rock armor gives you armor bonus of magic.
And the judges didn't spot it because they didn't think anyone would even think to try doing it. And they've already seen robed people, bloody monks coming in.
And
he's got a stave.
Monk, that's considered to be a monkish weapon.
Bow staff. So, yeah.
In fact, in D&D terms, because that's what these monks have been based off of, can use their monk abilities through monk weapons. like Bowstaff, Cestus.
Yeah.
Other types.
Whereas in this, they have to be unarmed to access them.
Yep.
They can use those abilities, but they're just fighting like normal people.
Mm-hmm.
So at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Carrack was hiding from them. Now, we had miniatures.
He had his nice little webby cloak as well.
Yes, and is he using the boots of the outlaw, or is he still wearing them? I can't remember.
They were tracking.
He gave them to Tanador, didn't he?
Yeah, but those were against anyone trying to track you. Yes. Whilst the cloak was the stealth test and immune to webbing, wasn't it?
Yeah, but it's got the same kind of theme.
True enough.
So he was trying to hide, but we've basically got literally the miniatures hiding, and the three of them are all kind of like going in. Carrack stepping up out of the way, putting his cloak up around him, sneaking, and he goes round. So the one that would be able to see him can't see him because the other two are in the way.
Yep.
And he's down low like
ducking
that.
and diving and crawling along on his arm.
So they can't see him. The two go for each other, block the way from the one behind. He can't see Carrack over on the other side, and he's crawling along like this, can't be seen.
Yeah.
So he just goes in, and so the three are just all taking each other off.
Carrack was going to try and make an alliance with the Orzammar dwarf. It was in there.
He tried it at the beginning, but it didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
He failed his communication test, and it turned out that the dwarf was too worried that the judges were going to
spot anything.
Yeah, so he just ignored Carrack, basically.
Yeah.
And it just went down. Who was Carrack left with, one-on-one in the end?
The pit fighter, I believe.
Because the other two took each other out, pretty much.
Yeah. There was just the pit fighter who was low on health. Carrack had stuck up behind him and cracked him over the end of his quarterstaff.
Yeah.
Knocking him out in one attack. Because he was low enough on health to do so.
Well,
so Carrack made it through.
There we have it, guys. Carrack in the last 64 there, with the last strike of the round being a telling toll of a bell.
Yeah.
Well.
Which leaves us with our full complement of 64 for the first round of the tournament.
Yeah. No, it served its purpose. It really has shaved a lot of the
undesirables.
However, there's a number of people that we still know don't have a chance.
Carrack doesn't have a chance.
That will be in that last 64, Carrack included, indeed, yes. And I suppose subsequent rounds will be needed still to sort that out.
Yep.
But they've earned their place here still, nonetheless, through ingenuity or something.
As they're going to progress, the rogues that have made it through are going to find it a harder time, especially if they go up against certain named fighters at different points.
Yeah. So, let's look at the next round's bouts that have been drawn and speculate on them. Well then, Laurie, let's look at how these last 64 will be panning out with these 32 fights, and let's look at who we think is starting to look like the favourites. This will be the full complement of the names now mentioned.
Okay, so who do we have up first, Rob?
Well, we've got Avar Matka of Bloodhold.
Oh, Bloodhold, huh?
Yeah, so this...
That sounds particularly dangerous.
It is. Going in against the Dalish girl that Gabe...
Stillness Stillfoot.
Stillness Stillfoot.
Now...
It depends how skillful she is, really. Can that be another? The Avars could be potentially dangerous, but they would have to be built with better willpower to really go the distance.
Yeah. But also, this is the first 64, the first round, the last 64.
Yeah.
There's also the special thing here where now you can wear up to anything lighter than plate. So these Avars, if they're warriors, and any other warrior, can start wearing heavy mail, which is 7 armor points. So those rogues that are going through here are going to have to rely a lot on backstabs, dirty fighting, and pierce armors to get through.
Absolutely. And that is the only thing they can do to try and even the odds. And maybe dual weapon focuses, really try and lay it on. And
yep. Lightning attacks for offhand weapons.
All those
assassins.
Nice things
abilities to improve their damage output.
Of course. Just to really run through the list, we'll be seeing Sir Bridget going up against a pirate.
Now,
some sort of captain, an unknown captain.
Bridget, she could have a chance there.
Bridget, you've known
But it depends on who this pirate captain is. Could be one of the legendary so-called pirates or not from there, or is it just some random pirate captain?
You met Bridget in your first ever adventure. That whole thing with the Alenka and the Stenhold and back in Vidcast 1.
Yeah.
Incredible. We'll have a Kalsharok Dwarf fighting one of the first player submitted characters called Rei, R-E-I.
Now, Rei is what exactly?
A rogue. This is
again
off the Dragon Age.
Again, he's going to need against these minor NPC like Kalsharok dwarves and Orzammar dwarves that are just qualifiers that have come through. They probably stand a bit better chance than against some of the named characters. But even so, they're still going to have to require a lot of their, as a rogue, their bonuses for being a rogue to apply.
It's still being fought to distress. Mm-hmm. So it's still, burst damage
but
needed
the
to get that
warriors,
third of the health off.
The warriors still have the factor of, they can nullify 7 points of any damage that's coming through.
And because it's going to be happening very, very early on, then that willpower will be absolute key, won't it?
Yes.
In this round as
so they need to burst damage and keep up that damage. They need to have a high DPS output constantly.
We're going to be having a Black Heart. Now, this is
one of the kids' group.
Yeah, one of Pelios's Black Hearts. He'll be taking on a competitor known as Dirty Mac. So we'll have
Dirty Mac?
We'll be having a dwarf going up against an Avar champion, Scarret or Nun.
You've mentioned him before. With
no hold.
Considers himself a champion of the Avarian people in general.
Generally.
Yeah.
Of the entire mountain range.
Now that would be an interesting fight to have to watch.
Yeah. We'll be having the eunuch fighter up against Agnes.
Oh.
So that will be a interesting challenge. She's got the willpower to see this through.
She does.
But the eunuch may well as well.
Now Amelia doesn't have doesn't have high willpower either.
No.
But
she's got other things working for her.
Yeah. As we've seen before, she can pull out a hell of a lot of damage and nullify a lot of it herself, naturally.
We'll be having a sellsword, a very well-known...
Speaking of that, with Amelia, if she was to go full guard up...
And Navaran sellsword.
Yes, if Amelia was to put full guard up, the +2, and take the major defend action, she'd be at 21 defense. That's considered the nigh impossible.
It is. It is indeed. The sellsword will be going up against,
of course, with
a knight, Sir Wistley. We will have the mysterious stranger, the unknown quality within this tournament, going up against Amelia Soranus. How do you feel about taking on an unknown?
Well, that's just it. We don't know much about him. What's his class? What's his background? What's anything to do about him?
He's cloaked.
That's exactly it. We don't know. We can't see what he looks like.
Amelia pretty much doesn't worry too much about who she fights.
She probably wouldn't want to fight to the death.
Until it gets bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In these fights, she wouldn't be wanting to fight for the death. She's not here for killing people. She's here to just join the tournament, see if she can win it.
We'll be having a mercenary going up against a monk. We'll be having another of the player-created characters, an actual player character in groups called Reza, who is another rogue. He will be going up against a pirate. We will have the convict that went through taking on that alchemist. Again, no crossbows and stuff allowed in this round either, which could be really, really telling.
Makes an interesting point for Varric still.
And then, a name you will all know, Oghren.
Ogren's here.
From Dragon Age Origins.
Branko's obviously sent him to get the hammer.
That's right. Said, look, that's a Paragon's hammer. I'm a Paragon. You go get that. Nows.
And Branko is a smith.
I can has that. Yes, but
I'll give her even more status in frickin'.
But it's like, but Orzammar already sent its delegates.
I'm sending you. Orzammar's not sending you, I am.
Exactly. He'll be up against that little girl. That's going to be... the less thought about that, the better.
Well, it's Oghren in general, so yeah. So I wouldn't really want to think about it.
He probably won't remember because of drink anyway, but...
Yeah.
We'll be having an elven slave up against the last season's summer champion, Lord Forsard Malakot, the chevalier who pissed you guys off, who wants Gabe's blood.
The dick.
He's a dick.
He's a dick.
We will have the Kid.
Peleos.
Great write-up there on him. He will be taking on Cal Sharrock's delegation representative, Lord Lyelf.
Now that would be a fight for pay-per-view.
Yeah. I suppose so. Another night, Sir Wood will be going up against a dwarf. Watch Captain Wallace, the fan, favourite on home turf of Cumberland. Watch Captain Wallace will be fighting that strange hag woman again with that like a witch that doesn't cast spells.
Yeah.
Just hags you to death.
An old crone.
Oh yes. Karak will be going up against a Kunari champion.
Ah, crap.
There's no way to hide this time, is there?
No, and the Kunari don't particularly like mages if they find out he's won. They will try killing him.
They'll be like, you look like a mage.
They will try... This Kunari will probably try to kill him.
If he spots magic on him, it could get bad.
Yes.
We will be having... it doesn't really look at all good for Karak.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't really.
He can always submit.
Yeah.
But anyway, we'll have an Orzammar dwarf taking on Ralevi the Root. Now, surely...
That's not going to go.
Surely.
Happen, really, to be honest. I mean,
the Root,
it's quite likely that they would make him immediately yield to the Root.
Exactly. He's not going. Orzammar aren't going to let one of their own dwarves damage the better potential champion amongst them, who could actually have a better chance of winning the hammer.
Yeah.
It's bad luck that they've been drawn. It was completely random.
Yeah.
It does, of course, by Orzammar having so many dwarves in it, they actually get to hacksaw the system a little bit in that way. Because they've had one of their guys go through more refreshed, as is obviously going to happen. I can't see them fighting at all.
Me neither.
No. The draw names come out of one of the Orzammar delegates, Lord Krenar, taking on the other Orzammar Lord delegate, Lord Kinrick. Wow. Yeah, these two have decided to actually enter into this. Now, the fact that these two have come up against each other also has another interesting connotation, because they've been in arguments about
how to get
the politics of how to get the hammer. Krenar wants to get it by dirty means, and any means necessary.
No one wants to be more honourable.
Kinrick thinks that the dwarfs are good enough to claim it themselves. They put it on the route to be able to win it for them if they themselves can't.
Yep.
Or at least Ogren, as they've heard he's there.
Yeah, but he's going to be claiming it for Branca.
Well, yes. At least it's in dwarf hands. They'll take it from there. That's a step better, at least.
Yep. Until she loses it in the deep roads. But she probably will.
Well, Ogren's got to win it yet.
Yeah.
Poor Ogren.
Yeah.
But I feel sorry for Varric, really.
Oh, yeah, because he's going in with his crossbow.
And he's not allowed to use it to fire.
All he's got on that is the bayonet setting.
Then we will have Kratan, Dragon Lord Pentagast. They have sent one of their family, an esteemed senior member, who they think has a good chance of winning this tournament.
Now imagine the Pentagast with dragon-slaying weapons made from dragon bone. Magical properties possibly here.
Ooh. He will be taking on a Black Heart. So
I feel sorry for that Black Heart, to be honest.
We are talking about...
I'm thinking there's probably little chance of him winning.
A lord of great esteem here, aren't we?
Yeah, we're talking a guy who's probably, in quantity terms, of being a dragoon.
Then we will have another of the player characters, Tom Killian, a warrior this time, fighting the Black Bear. Now, there has been severe controversy over this fight, because in this fight, we don't know how the first round, how it worked then at all anyway, but in this round, the Black Bear, he was suiting up in his plated armour, his black armour.
The bear armour.
And he was told, No, you can't wear it.
Basically, this guy's a more bloodthirsty form of Tordran, isn't he?
Maybe. And he was told, you can't have it. You can't wear that. It's got to be male.
More controversy on the rules from warrior fighters.
Again, they don't like Cumberland's way of doing things here. And he said, you know what?
If I can't fight with it, I'm not fighting with anything.
So he's decided that he's going to go out there bare-chested.
Yeah.
He's not even going to wear leather.
While I worry for who he's going to be for the person the Black Bear's fighting,
there's a real chance of him picking up some damage.
Yeah.
His stubbornness.
Yes. Either because of one of two things. Either A, he'll go through and be severely damaged for the next round.
Yeah.
Exhausted from where he's been fighting.
Mm.
Or B, he's going to lose.
He'll be less exhausted, of course, from not carrying around all that armour on him.
But it's going to be, rather than exhaustion from that, it's going to be damage done to his body.
Yes. Even if he's able to stop the opponent and close him down and take his opponent out, his opponent could well get some good shots in before the act. Well, we'll have to see how that goes down. But, this is a player character warrior as well. Who could well stand a chance. I mean, these people have been...
He'll either A, win it...
They live and fight in the world. They've got a heart.
He might have a chance. He might have a chance. That's what I'm saying here. Even if... But he may not win. This is the Black Bear, the champion of Tevinter, won his freedom as a slave. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Scary stuff. We'll be having a mercenary taking on Varric, as we've already explained about that fight. We will have the wrestling champion that we met before, the Hog. He has turned up.
Now, here's the thing. Imagine if Tanadil had gotten through and fought him in this round.
That would be funny.
It would have been... a
rematch, definitely. Yeah. But with weapons. And it would be the Hog versus the mutant slave. Depends what this mutation does for him. But we remember the Hog was obscenely strong. I think he was something like strength 6 or something ridiculous.
Well, let's put it this way. Amelia was in the fighting ring. She took on the blacksmith from the Dalish Curse.
Yes.
And when they were going to have the champion of the fighting ring, the Hog, come down, she was like, no.
No. And
I'm backing out. And Tanner was like, I'll take him on.
And Tanadil did it, but...
He was buffed by one strength point by Karak, and also healed midway through the fight.
Yeah. So that was some major cheating going on there to allow Tanadil to actually win that competition.
Yeah.
And beat the... But, he's here now, and... is this the kind of right sort of event for him? How's he going to approach the usage of weapons? Or is he going to fight like a monk? And wrestle? Who knows? We will have the dwarf Underwood going up against a pirate. We will have a standard competitor, a sword and board type fighter going up against House Baranti's other representative. She's taking
Captain
no
Braden.
Exactly. Well, he's... I don't really see anything stopping him this round.
Not this round, no. Not that fighter.
We'll have to see. We'll have a knight, Sir Olmar, taking on one of the Blackhearts. Could be an interesting one. We'll have another knight, Sir Cruddle, fighting a pit fighter. We'll have that big drug lord guy going up against one of Lord Lyalf's bodyguards, in fact. One of the Kalsharot people, delegates' bodyguards. Again, it depends what the big guy's about,
Yeah.
We'll have a Dalish chap taking on Shadow. But again, the Dalish person cannot fire ranged.
No, but Shadow. But if this Dalish elf is a rogue, Shadow's a rogue. It's about even.
Yep. Except Shadow might be built with more close
physical combat abilities. Yes.
So might have the edge here. We'll have to see. We'll have a Chasing the Wilder taking on a pit fighter. We will have Blitzel. Now, do you want to explain who Blitzel?
Okay. Now, when Rob was coming along with asking you guys for people to be putting into this tournament, there was a character that I was thinking of possibly running at a later point into the Dragon Age world called Blitzel Aldrich. Now, he was someone that we were using as a background character in Warthrop, and his thing there was that he was a disgraced noble from Bretonia. So basically, he's a Bretonian knight who takes up the Grail Oath to try and find the Grail to become a full-on proper knight in the sense of like Bretonian terminology. The final point of it. I can't remember what it was now, but yes, it was going to go into that, but because of what Blitzel would have ended up becoming, because of his own story that we were going to do, Blitzel is not just a disgraced knight or a noble, he also becomes a vampire. In that. Now, here, we can't really do that.
No.
But Blitzel in this world is half Pentagast.
He's a base-born Pentagast. Means he doesn't take the name. So...
Blitzel's here fighting. He's like, alright, you're going to send me just in case this bastard fucks up. Is that it? Or you're sending him in case I fuck up. That seems the more likely, isn't it?
Too high an opinion he has of himself.
Yeah, he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder.
I don't think they sent him at all.
But he got in. He got into the seeded.
Yeah, now, he will be...
Just because of his supposedly being part Pentagast in name, even though he doesn't get called by it.
He likes a good fight.
Oh, yeah.
He'll take on all comers, won't he?
Oh, yeah. Blitzel, he goes in with a halberd. Now, we've had to use the Esoterica for this, and we even house-ruled a little bit of it. Because it had a special rule of Pierce on it.
Yeah.
That's like, after armor is applied, you add an additional 1 point of damage. We changed that up so that it was like, you can do the rogue's Pierce armor stunt instead.
Yeah.
To one point instead of 2, like the rogue does.
Yep.
But you have to be doing the special move of a chop with it, rather than the long-range 1d6 damage.
Yep.
Now, Blitzel is a wannabe dragon slayer. He hasn't claimed a dragon kill yet. So even if he was truly Pentagast, he wouldn't even probably be allowed to call it because he hasn't slain a dragon.
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't be a dragon lord, would he? Full on. Yeah.
He's a disgraced noble of some variety, and basically he's just a bit of an ass in his own way. But he's here fighting for the people in his what he believes. He's fighting for Navarra itself. He's here. He doesn't give a damn for the nobles or the commoners. He's here to fight for everyone.
He could end up as one of your player characters, couldn't he?
Possibly at a later point.
He's been rolled up through the normal means. Yeah. As a Navarran.
No, Navarran adventurer. I think he's even got a higher willpower for being that. Plus 1 point. He's got a good strength on his shoulders. Not particularly a high dexterity, so his defense is pretty low.
You find warriors like that sometimes.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Blitzel is about get in, hit hard. You can take a few hits yourself, but so long as you out-damage the other guy, you should be fine.
Well, the other guy is going to be Thane 1R Imot Tigerhold.
Tanadil's fame.
Yeah. An older guy, probably around about 55 years old. He'll be probably axe and shield set up.
This is a good fight for Blitzel. At least a good first fight to see.
Yeah.
Just to see what he can do.
He'll be past his prime now a bit.
However, while this guy would not be in his prime anymore, he's probably good for his age.
Oh, yeah.
Being a Navarran in general, I would think he'd be definitely good for his age.
And also being the Thane.
Oh, yeah, definitely. That on top.
And then the final battle we'll be looking forward to is Sigane, which will be a warrior, another one of the player-created warriors, who will be taking on an Orzammar dwarf. So,
there's a lot of Orzammar dwarfs. I see very few Kalsharok and Cartha champions getting through.
They've really fallen out, haven't they?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Orzammar dwarves have done better. So this has been a resounding success for Orzammar. And of course, they still have their major champion, Relevi the Rude.
Plus 2 of their delegates.
going up against each other, so one's going to be eliminated. So
yeah, definitely.
That was bad fortune.
Yeah. Although it'd be quite, it would be interesting to see what would happen if one of those delegates ended up drawing against Levy the Root in the next round, maybe.
Oh.
What would have to occur there?
What would happen? You know, we could speculate.
I mean, it's quite likely that right now that the normal lower Orzammar Dwarf versus Levy the Root is obviously going to have to drop out. So Bridget might make it through to the last 16.
You don't think the Hog will have what it takes in being a wrestler to fight in a contest like this?
The Hog might make it through to the last 16 at the most, I would say. If you were to read out who each of these rounds, I would give you a possibility of who I would think would even make it to the next round, and if they would probably meet the next round. But then it all depends on what they win, who wins this round, who they're fighting in the next round to even get into the next 16.
Yep. And then, of course, we've got the very experienced Captain Braden.
Yeah.
Well,
who hasn't been the same since his accident.
No. Anyway, we'll leave it there. We'll speculate no more. We'll leave that one brewing with you to percolate. And until the next one, I will see you in the arena.